Hello, everyone, and welcome to my YouTube channel where I will be going over some known and some unknown paranormal cases, anywhere from mysterious sightings to possessions to hauntings, all of the above in the paranormal field. First off, before we get started, Happy New Year to everyone, and hopefully, you guys have some awesome goals set for yourselves for this year, 2024. Let's do this. Today, we're going over our first case, which is the Enfield Monster. This took place in Enfield, Illinois, in April 1973, so it's a while back. It's a pretty long time ago. So at the time of this paranormal event, reports were covered by the news media, newspapers, pretty much everything that they had access to back then. They were covering this. Many suggested that it was a wild ape or kangaroo that had escaped from a zoo. At about 10 p.m. on the night of April 25th, 1973, this man's name was Henry McDaniel. So he claims to have heard a noise in front of his home. He was just in the living room. He was, doesn't say what he was doing, but he watching TV, reading the newspaper, whatever he was doing. So he heard a noise, and he grabs his gun and his flashlight to go outside to check, because I guess he thought it was a bear, because they have a lot of bear sightings in the area. So he goes outside to check, and he looks in the bushes, and he sees this creature, and he notices, okay, this isn't a bear. When they asked him what he saw, he says that this thing had 3 legs, a short little body, 2 short arms, 2 big pink eyes that they were as big as flashlights, and it was about 4.5 feet tall, almost like a human body, he said. So he had his gun, remember, with him. He had his gun with him. So he took 4 shots at it. He fired 4 shots. And from what he claims, that only one of the shots hit. When he hit this creature, he says that it hissed, almost like a mountain cat. I guess they have mountain cat sightings there too. I don't know what a mountain cat sounds like. I'm guessing it would be like a cat, but just bigger. So kind of like a... but louder. I'm not really good at that, but you get the picture. So it fires 4 shots, it hisses, and it takes off. But this thing doesn't take off running. This thing leaps out. Where are you? Sorry. I thought I had someone right now. Okay, so yeah, this thing doesn't take off. It actually leaps. There you are. I found you. You trying to leap too? Oh, you got me. Alright, hold on. I'm getting back to the story. Don't worry. Just get this person real quick if I can. Okay, I'll let you... Oh, there you are. So yeah, this thing leaps. And from the claims that it took 4 leaps and cleared over 50 feet in just 4 leaps. So that's a pretty crazy amount of space to cover with 4 jumps. So, as far as I'm aware, bears don't jump like that. I don't even think they can jump. I mean, I'm pretty sure they can jump, but not that far. So, 4 jumps over 50 feet. And that it takes off towards a railroad, I guess railroad tracks that were nearby. And that was it. That's all that happened. It just takes off. Come here. Ah. Where are you? Okay, so after this happened, McDaniel actually called the police to do a report because, he was pretty startled. Oh man, nice jukes. He was pretty startled. So when the police did the interview, they made sure he wasn't drunk, he wasn't, just being weird. They said that he was of sound mind and that he didn't seem intoxicated in any way, whether it was drugs or anything. They said he was fine. So they didn't take it into consideration that, okay, this dude's crazy or this dude's up to something. So they, at that time they believed him. I'm gonna break that. Get to him. Oh man, he's acting little punk. Okay. Yeah, I know, buddy. I suck right now. Trying to get you, don't worry. There you go. That's what you get for being a little punk. Okay, so yeah, the police were called, and they actually went to go searching for it, just to see, because he said, it took off towards the railroad. So they actually found footprints in the mud or in the dirt, and what was kind of weird about the footprints is the fact that, if it was a bear, it would be, I'm not sure, 4 or 5 toes. I'm not sure, but this thing had 6 toes. So that they thought that was pretty weird when they found those tracks. So that's another thing that kind of corroborates his story of seeing a creature roaming around where he was. So that's a little creepy too. Not just this guy saying that he saw this, but just the fact that they found tracks too, and around the railroads too. So everything kind of just goes with what he was saying. That's pretty crazy. Later on, they interviewed McDaniel again, and he pretty much said that if and when this thing is found, that most likely they're gonna find it with other creatures that are like it too, so not just one but multiple, and that he feels like it's not from this planet. So that's another thing. That was my first thought too when you hear the description of it. It being gray, having those red eyes like a flashlight. That kind of makes me think of like an alien. So, it could be a creature, it could be an alien, or it could be both. So who knows? But that's crazy how he says that, or he pretty much thinks that this thing's gonna be not alone. So at that time, after they interviewed him, they wanted to do a little bit more investigating. So they investigated neighbors that were around the area, people if they seen anything, and they found one person. It was a 10-year-old boy. His name was Greg Garrett, and he claims that he encountered this creature about half an hour before McDaniel did. This boy said that he was outside and that the creature came running by and actually stepped on him and left claw marks in his on his shoes. They left him on his shoes. So that's just another story that kind of adds to this mystery of this creature. So that's a little bit more enticing to believe that this isn't just the rants of this crazy person. But actually later on, they found out that this boy confessed, and he said that he was just messing around, that he was pretty much just teasing McDaniel. He was just making fun of him, and that he wanted to mess with the news. He wanted to just be a jokester. So that story of the little 10-year-old boy with the claw marks in the shoe turned out to be fake. Man, I can't hit these guys, man. These guys are really good, or I just suck really bad. I'm getting one of you at least. I'm not leaving this hook. At least got one. Okay. Yeah, so the little boy was lying. He was just being a little jokester, a little prankster. And then, so 2 weeks later, McDaniel called the local radio station, WWKI, saying that he had seen the creature again at around 3 a.m. and that it was roaming around the train tracks, which is where it took off in the first place when he first seen it, where it jumped over 50 feet with just 4 jumps. So he claims that he's seen it again around those train tracks. So they actually started an investigation. A bunch of people came in. The supervisor running the radio station was leading this investigation, and they claim to have spotted it near a warehouse, I guess, by the train tracks. saying that they heard it screeching and crying, and that they actually caught this on footage. They started shooting at it, and they didn't hit it, and it ran off again. They didn't get it. They didn't shoot it, but that they claimed that they did have the video evidence, and the recording of it shrieking and crying. So that was very interesting to find out that there's another piece of evidence to corroborate the story, that this person isn't crazy or making this up. And then someone else actually stepped in too. So a cryptozoologist named Lauren Coleman investigated this case, and the recordings from the news, the local news, of the video recordings that they had of this creature shrieking. So that was another layer to add to this, of someone trying to see what the heck was going on with this, and to see if it was true or false, to see if it was real. 2 days later after that, McDaniel was interviewed again, and he stuck to his story. He says, I'm not changing it. I'm not crazy. I'm not making any of this up. They tried to persuade him, saying, were you just saying this for attention? Were you just doing this to start commotion in the neighborhood? And he claims that that's what he saw, and he's sticking to it. The other thing too is that police were called in to investigate reports of gunfire in the area. So it turns out that a lot of people have started to hear about this in the area, and just neighboring cities as well too. They heard about this creature. It was going, at that time, it was going like crazy in the newspapers and the news. So people came in to investigate this for themselves. So they actually ended up arresting 5 young men that came to actually take pictures of this creature. They wanted to find evidence for themselves, but they had guns with them. They had shotguns and stuff. So I don't think they just wanted to take photos. They wanted to capture this thing. They wanted to kill it. They wanted to have hard proof evidence that this thing really did exist. So regarding the incident with the 5 young men that were shooting and the gunfire that they were hearing in the area, they asked the sheriff's department their thoughts on what was going on, and the sheriff's department actually dismissed the reports, and they quoted this as a monster hunting expedition, that it was an exaggeration, saying that the guys were just drinking, they were just having a good time, that they happened to have mentioned the monster, but nothing else. It was just very, very brief. They didn't say anything else about it, so that pretty much that they were exaggerating. The news was exaggerating. The guys, for the most part, were exaggerating. And none of that happened. That these guys didn't come in guns blazing looking for this creature. They just came into town just to have a good time. Still, after these reports, though, of people coming in and trying to do their own investigating and trying to hunt this thing, and pictures, whether or not this was valid or not, articles started writing, newspapers, radio stations started warning people about these incidents, saying that there's monster hunters on the loose, advising people to be very, very careful, because that they might accidentally get shot, livestock might be accidentally shot, if these guys were hunting in the dark, anyone's moving in the dark, or doing something outside, that these people could panic and shoot them accidentally, thinking that they're something that they're not, thinking that they're a creature and they're not. So the other thing that was interesting too is that there was an actual zoo nearby, so that kind of, I guess, a little bit coincides with the fact that they seen it jump. So a lot of people were saying that it was a kangaroo that had escaped. There was evidence that a kangaroo did escape from the zoo, so that was another thing that kind of added to the strength of that it was a kangaroo that escaped from the zoo, and that McDaniel was just maybe tired or something, and he just seen a kangaroo. But McDaniel was, again, interviewed. He was interviewed multiple times, and he was actually in the military, and he was stationed in Australia. So he said, he's seen multiple kangaroos. He knows what a kangaroo looks like. They have very narrow noses, and they have very long tails. And he said that wasn't no kangaroo, that this was some creature that he had never seen before. So that was dismissed right away, according to McDaniel. So where did you go? Oh, there you are. So a few days after, the United Press International quoted an anthropology student who suggested that the creature could have been a wild ape, especially since there was a zoo around. That's another thing that they believe. They didn't want to believe that this thing was a creature. But the thing with that is that there were no reports of any kind of anyone ever seeing an ape anywhere in the area, in the neighborhood. So that kind of doesn't really, strengthen the argument that it was an ape that escaped. So there you are. So one interesting thing too that was going on with this too is that in 1978, researchers at Western Illinois University, led by David L. Miller, investigated the incident too. They actually used it as a case study for social contagion, and that's pretty much where multiple people see similar sightings or hear similar noises, and one person hears something, then another person sees something, and it starts being very, very similar to what the other person sees or hears, and then people start getting a little bit paranoid, and then it kind of just starts spreading, almost like a disease. People start getting paranoid, and it just starts spreading from there. So they did a study on that, which was pretty crazy, that they have that type of evidence to go off of to help with this sort of study, to see if that was the case or not, to see if that was something that had happened, or if this really was evidence-based as far as the findings. So as far as any more evidence, there wasn't really any more evidence other than that. That was pretty much all that they had. Even till this day, I'm pretty sure in Illinois they still talk about it. They still get a little freaked out or get a little concerned when they hear something bumping in the night. They hear something, that's always going to be something that they're going to say, the Enfield Monster. So that's something that's always going to stick around, which is pretty cool. I wasn't able to find any other evidence, anything recently, but I just thought that this was a pretty interesting case as far as paranormal, because you do have pretty good amount of evidence from this person, from the sighting to the footprints in the dirt to these people catching video recordings of the audio of this creature. So I feel like this was a pretty valid case to go over. I think it's pretty naive to think that we're the only things on this earth. I feel like there's a lot of stuff that we have yet to discover, whether it be aliens, creatures that we haven't discovered. There's just so much that we don't know yet. So I just find it very, very interesting to think that people, deny the existence of these paranormal phenomenons in our world. So let me know what you guys think. Let me know you guys' comments. If you guys have had similar experiences, maybe a creature that was similar or something that was similar in case. I'd love to hear you guys' comments. So, until next time, guys, stay spooky. See ya.